it again. We're going back to Omaha. And it's on to the College World Series Final. The 2015 National Champions.
And welcome into another edition of 1186, the podcast, the official podcast of the UVA baseball program. The Hoos coming off a big weekend at home, a 3-game sweep of Stanford in ACC play. I am Damon Dillman, joined by Andrew Ramspacker, as always. And joining us this week, it was a milestone weekend for our guest this week, Brian O'Connor, the head coach of the UVA baseball team in Oak. I went back and I checked. I looked at our guest list since we've been doing this podcast. You are the first guest we've had on to reach the 900 win plateau as a college baseball coach. So let's just start right there. Just hitting yet another milestone. I know, whether it's 600, 700, 800, what do these milestones mean to you? And more importantly, I guess, what do they represent in your opinion?
Well, Damon, that's an honor to be first time one of your guests. All the great
you'll go down in history.
And by the way, Damon's on the brink of his T-ball coaching career.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, competition.
We all start somewhere.
Let me tell you, buddy, that's a lot of games to coach. That's a lot of snacks to bring to the Little League game after.
We're learning that the hard way.
Yeah, it's certainly quite a milestone, right? It just speaks to the consistency in a lot of different ways, the consistency of bringing the right kind of young men here on a consistent basis, the consistency of our coaching staff, and then the consistency of play from year to year. So very proud of that, proud of our players that, I had a few guys text me that night after the win on Saturday of guys that were on our first team here 22 years ago and how proud they are. And, thinking that knowing that they laid the groundwork here 22 years ago of, the standards of our program and, to see that play out consistently over the last 22 years is quite rewarding. For me, it's a number, it's just, I don't necessarily ever look at the wins. I look at what goes into it and the challenges that every team faces throughout the year. And, if you manage those challenges and in it for the right reasons, then the byproduct of that is a lot of wins. And, I think what's really important, guys, is I know a lot is made out of a coach, and the amount of wins, in this case, 900. It's really important to me that everybody understands that, we have a baseball program at the University of Virginia for the players to have an awesome experience of developing their talents and competing and learning all the lessons that they learn from the game of baseball. It's their experience, right? The win total just happens to go on, my record, right? But the program is here for them to have a great experience and develop as baseball players and men, and that's what it's about. And sometimes the byproduct of that is wins. So we're certainly proud of it.
You say in there the standard that you've set, that this program has been set over these past 20 plus years in getting to those 900 wins as a total. You've mentioned the standard a few times this year, whether it be getting your guys to reach that standard, maybe during a losing streak. And then over the weekend, I think you mentioned that you guys kind of got back to hitting that standard of show and fight, things like that. Yeah. What has this year been like with that? Obviously a veteran group, it's gone through some downs, and now it's coming off of a big weekend. So how have you approached this group? How have things changed in your guys continuing to attack that standard that's always been set here?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you asking that. I think what's important that people understand is the difference between expectations and standards. You know, expectations are from the outside of what people think that a player or team should do. You know, standards are the little details of things of how we go about our business every day. To hopefully the result is to win a baseball game. And every team goes through different challenges, and one of the standards of our program has always been that no matter how things are going, we're going to hang in there and we're going to fight in a game and then from game to game. And, every year sometimes that's challenged, right? Not that the players challenge it, but, they just have to be reminded of that's what Virginia baseball's about. I don't think there's any team in America that wouldn't say that that's what they're about, right? A part of what makes them successful. So listen, we've had some tough moments already in this first half of the year. But you go back and assess things, there's tough moments in every season. Sometimes those tough moments are in April. Sometimes they're in early May, right? Every team goes through them. And, the key is at what point in the season, how does a team manage them? And I'm just really proud of our guys because, maybe we haven't been living up to outside expectations, but, this weekend they found a way to play Virginia baseball. And that's awesome. And it's moving in the right direction. And, maybe, who knows, maybe we get off and get on a great run in April. I don't know, but, the signs are very positive with how we played the game this weekend. And, we kept in each of the 3 ball games, we'd fall behind and we kept roaring back. And what a great quality for a team to have. And, I think they're starting to see and understand what our identity needs to be moving forward. So, listen, we're 6-6 in the league. There's a lot of teams that are right around 500 in the league. And these great leagues, it's kind of trended the last couple of years. There's in the SEC, ACC, some of these bigger leagues, there's a lot of playing around 500. It's just crazy how, one weekend somebody sweeps somebody and the next weekend they sweep somebody else. And so that's why you just have to hang in there and keep competing, and hopefully the game comes around to you.
You obviously deliver those messages frequently with your teams, but how much value is there to go back to Thursday? Like you said, all weekend you'd fall behind and you'd rally back and you'd come back and go back, just doing it once on Thursday and then being able to build off that. And then you do it again on Friday and then you do it again on Saturday, just stacking those wins and stacking those blocks, so to speak. How much value is there in just building off from one day to the next?
Well, I think, Damon, I think there's definitely a cumulative effect. There's a cumulative effect in a game, right? Like you see all of a sudden a couple of guys get some big hits. The game 2 where we scored 6 runs with 2 outs and nobody on in the latter part of the game. So I think there's a building and cumulative effect within a game and from game to game. That's from a positive confidence in what you're capable of doing as a group. So, hopefully we learned, and I believe we have this weekend, about how we need to play the game, what our approach needs to be on a consistent basis. And what you hope is that then that that translates to consistency from week to week. Allergy season. I apologize.
It happens to every team, right?
Allergy season. That game 2, you did have, like you mentioned, like 11 of your 13 runs did come with 2 outs. How do you simulate 2-out hitting? Like, how do you simulate that pressure when you're not in that moment? That's like one of the. I've never asked a baseball coach that, and everyone talks about the importance of 2-out hitting. 2-out hits get you to heaven, yada yada yada. But how do you put your guys in that moment so they can deliver there?
Well, it's hard, it's hard to practice, every day in batting practice, we do situations in one of our rounds. And, one of the situations is, hey, 2 outs, runner on second base, or 2 outs, bases loaded. So you're trying to replicate what their approach needs to be in that situation. And you're trying to do it every day. The reality is competitors want to be in that situation. And that goes both ways. That's for the batter in the batter's box. That's also for the guy on the mound, right? Who can manage an inning with 2 outs and runners in scoring position and make the big pitches that need to be made. That's what separates people. And, got players, whether it's in the batter's box or on the mound or making a play defensively, the great players want to be in those scenarios. And you have to look forward to those situations and not back down from them and not look for somebody else to do it. You've got to want to do it. So it's more of there's a little bit of a preparation daily on it, but it's more of a mindset of that you want to be the guy in that batter's box when your team's counting on you the most.
Aiden Teal's a guy who sort of bided his time in this program for a while, whether it was because of the injury when he first came in or trying to find a spot for him, waiting for his opportunity. Just he's getting that opportunity this year. Now he's in the leadoff spot. You're using him there and playing every day, just seeing him capitalize on getting this opportunity. What's it been like from your perspective to see the way he's battled back from injury, waited his time, and now he's capitalizing?
Yeah, I'm just really proud of him. Obviously, Damon, there's something special with that family, that they're competitors. Those 2 boys were certainly raised in a way around the game and understand the game and love to compete. Just really proud of Aiden's development. He got hurt in high school and blew his elbow out and decided to graduate a year early to enroll at UVA a year early, and sat out that year and rehabbed. And then last year we needed him more on the mound than anything and got a few at bats and then transitioned to be our starting center fielder this year. And I just feel like throughout this season, we played 26 ball games. I just feel like he continues to get better and better. Right. The more experience that he's getting. In some ways, he's kind of like a first-year freshman hitter for us, position player, even though he's been here in our uniform for 3 years. So it's a constant learning experience in his development. And I'm just proud of him because I think he's taken the learns and continue to develop and getting better and better as the season moves along.
The other half of his heroics yesterday, obviously, was not only coming from first on Saturday, not yesterday, was him coming from first to home to score that winning run, kind of in dramatic fashion. Got his hand under there on the slide to win that game. First of all, you've James Nunnally, Jimmy Nunnally. What are we going with?
He's James. Sometimes James. Teammates, or I call him Jimmy. So. Obviously, James is he was motoring around there, and it was awesome to see Coach Mack send him and bang bang play at the plate. What a way to cap off the sweep for sure.
I always thought that was a status thing. Like Daniel Pinero became Danny as the further and further he played, right? So I figured maybe he's already earned that because of what he's done. But what you talk about his athleticism and again, being part of that staples of UVA baseball is guys that brought in here who are elite athletes. And you saw that the other day. Can you tell us a little more about his background, what you liked about him as a recruit as he came in here, and how that's paying off so far?
Yeah, that's a great point, Andrew. He's along the lines of a lot of guys that we've had that we've recruited position player wise that are really good athletes. And we feel like we get them in our program and get them stronger and get them experience, and they continue to develop and leave here as really special players. And so, I just felt that James was pretty advanced coming into us, his ability to hit and being a good athlete. He actually caught in high school. He's played some second base. He's played outfield, even though he's only played outfield for us. He showed in high school that he's got a lot of versatility, and this fall, he was one of our better hitters all fall and really did a nice job. I just think he's got a really good ball to bat skills. And as he continues to gain experience and get stronger, he's going to be an outstanding player in this program. I think we're going to look up 2 and 3 years from now and say, wow, this guy's really special. And he's for a true freshman, he's done a really nice job in our lineup. He's played right field, left field, and just, but that said, when a freshman comes into your program as a hitter, like they haven't experienced the challenges that they in high school that they do at this level, of the having to overcome things of not getting going 0 for 5 on a day, going 0 for 4 like he did on Saturday, and then all of a sudden in the extra inning getting the big 2-strike hit, right? These hitters are so used to hitting for such a high average and having so much success in high school. It's about managing the down times, in the game, and from game to game is something that's learned. And so that's something that, our coaching staff has continued to talk to somebody like him about, like how you manage yourself from within the at bat to at bat, because that's a learned skill that you only can learn through going through the experience. And so I think he's done a really nice job. I think he'll continue to get better and better throughout this year and throughout his career.
Kind of building off that, because you're talking about learning how to manage those downtimes. How have you learned to manage those downtimes? Because like Andrew and I were talking about before we started, this reminds me a lot of the 2021 season, where you had a lot of veteran guys in the lineup, veteran guys in the pitching staff, and you didn't get off to the start you wanted, and you sort of hit that fork in the road. And obviously it isn't quite to that extreme yet this year. But it's just knowing that there's still a lot of baseball to be played. The calendar doesn't turn to April until tomorrow, and just managing that, like, yeah, we might not have been playing to the standard that we expect to this point, but that doesn't mean maybe the margin of error is shrinking, but the season, there's still a lot of baseball to be played.
Yeah, there is. And certainly for us as coaches, there's a management part of it that's really important, because players are going to take your lead on what your mentality is. If we're walking around down in the dumps all the time at practice or off the field or whatever, and we're not showing positive encouragement and belief, how can you expect the players to do it? That said, when there's things that need to be coached and corrected, those things need to be addressed, right? That's what we owe them. That's part of their development, not only this year's team, but them as individuals and them as a group, is to be reminded when the effort or doing what we do is not up to par. But to get through the down times, the challenging times, of being confident, being patient, being optimistic, in order to persevere through those struggling, challenging times is incredibly important, right? And so how we manage ourselves as the leaders of the program is incredibly important. And so sometimes that's challenging them, and sometimes that's being, very, very positive, because I believe that there's hope on the other side of it. If you have talent and skill, which I believe we do, that staying with it and knowing how the game works and how it's going to, turn around is going to be important. You referenced the 2021 team. I mean, there was a point in time in conference play that year, we were 4-11 in conference play, and ended out through the back half of the year being able to win a series here, win one game this particular weekend, sweep this particular weekend, and all of a sudden got ourselves back to 500 in the league and ended up being a College World Series team. So there's been plenty of proof in the past in this program of how that's been accomplished, and so that's why I was really proud of the guys this weekend that, okay, we were 3-6 in the league. Well, we've been there plenty of times before, and even had we not swept, had we won the series, it would have been growth and progress to where we just happened to find a way to win game 3 and sweep the series and put us in a better situation. I say it all the time, you got 30 of these things. We've played 12 of them, and you just don't know which one of those in the end of the year is going to have made the difference.
And we'll wrap with, the last guest we had on here was Jake McCarthy, in the spirit of opening day. He was one of 10 former Virginia players on those opening day rosters. Obviously, he's off to a great start to his career with the Arizona Diamondbacks. But we want to ask you about one in particular. That's Noah Murdoch, who did make the Athletics roster. And can you just kind of speak to his story from your program, and now how proud are you of him to make a big league roster starting this year?
Yeah, I'm incredibly proud of him. My son Dylan told me last night that he had pitched in relief in a game a couple of days ago and pitched really great for the A's. Just really proud of Noah. He came here, a really good athlete, 6'6", 6'7", moved around really good and quick on the mound, and just needed to get stronger and continue to develop. And he got better and better in his 3 years here, and moved on and took his opportunity in professional baseball, has dealt with some injuries here and there, but has continued to persevere throughout his pro ball process. Every year in the offseason, the last 3 years or so, he's come back here and thrown bullpens, thrown live to our hitters before he's reported to spring training. It's been so good to see and watch his progress. I remember talking to him in the dugout the day before this spring, the day before he left and went to spring training, about how excited I was for him about this transition over to Oakland, and that how it could be a great opportunity for him. And certainly he made the most of it in spring training and is now in the big leagues, and just one of many guys that we're all so proud of, and proud of their development here. Listen, it wasn't easy for Jake McCarthy here because he got injured a couple of times. His 3 years here, he didn't play as much that we had hoped because dealt with so many injuries, but knew he was a great athlete when he stayed healthy. He could be a big leaguer and stay there. And he's done a tremendous job. And, it didn't come easy for Noah here. But he continued to grind and get better and better and took his opportunity. And now he's making the most of it. So proud of all of those guys and what they have accomplished. And you feel like their roots and their foundation that they got here for 3 or 4 years was integral in their journey. And that's why I go back to the standards that are in our program. Not only do they work for the players while they're here and the teams that they play on here, but they're most important for the rest of their life, whether it's in pro ball or out of pro ball. And ultimately, that's what we owe them. Again, I go back to when we were talking about 900 wins. It's for the players. It's a place for them to develop as baseball players and men. And that's what it's about. That's what it's going to continue to be about. As many games as we win or don't win, or go to Omaha or don't go to Omaha, that's always going to be the foundation of our baseball program, and will continue to be, because that's what's been successful for us, but also, too, most importantly, that's what we owe these young men while they're under our care.
No, hearing you say that, it reminds me of Jake was telling the story last week of he would get so nervous doing bunt drills in the indoor football facility, and just the pressure he would feel from you guys. He said he was more nervous bunting in those drills in the indoor football facility than he is trying to get a bunt down in Dodger Stadium. Yeah, because he talked about the way you guys prepared him for those bigger stages and those bigger moments. So I think that's a great example of what you're talking about. And I mean, obviously it translates off the field as well.
100%. That's exactly it, Damon. Andrew, that like if you ask young men to have intensity with everything they do and practice a certain way and put pressure on them, the right kind of pressure to execute, whether it be a bunt or a pitch or a play or whatever it is, then you get into those moments that we talked about earlier to out hitting, right? Then the game slows down for them, or getting a bunt down in Dodger Stadium, right? That all goes back to the preparation and standards of what you ask them to do every day. And there's no wiggle room in that, right? I'll never forget the great football coach at Notre Dame, Lou Holtz, and the player, when he coached at Notre Dame, the players used to say the most challenging days in Coach Holtz's era were Monday through Friday, were practice, right? The Saturdays, the game days, those were a cakewalk, right? Well, it's because of the standards and the holding them accountable to it every day. Then you hope when they're on the mound, you believe when they're on the mound with the runner in scoring position or at the plate with the runner in scoring position, they're going to give themselves a chance to have a high chance to have success because of what their preparation is like.
All right. Well, Oak, we know you have to run, so we're going to let you go. Thanks for taking the time to join us this week. For Oak, for Andrew, I'm Damon. Thanks for joining us here again on 1186 the podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.